Hey Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Jeff, you're big into safaris. How many have you actually been to?
I've lost count. I have a safari addiction. So let's see. If we're counting individual days, hundreds, hundreds.
Wow, are they all in Africa?
No, actually. I mean, the majority are in Africa because those regions are prolific with wildlife. But there are a lot of other eco destinations worldwide that I love to go explore.
All right. So what are some that really stand out to you that were really glorious?
Oh, for locations?
Yeah.
I mean, the Masai Mara in Kenya is hard to beat. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Such a high concentration of wildlife there, known for the great wildebeest migration, millions of wildebeest and zebra, which attracts thousands of predators. I've been, yeah, seeing the mass, like large numbers of animals, is really spectacular. So I love chasing wildlife phenomenon and kind of those migratory patterns around the globe. So the Masai Mara is one example of that. South Africa, I mean, one of my favorite places in the world. And then there's other wildlife hubs too, Costa Rica, and even where I live here in Montana, there's a fair share of wildlife too.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did you get the bug? Like, how did you get into this stuff?
I've always loved wildlife, obviously. And I guess, I first was really into zoos, zoological parks. I was taken to the Calgary Zoo in Alberta by my grandfather. And that's really where I dipped my toe into loving wildlife conservation, all those themes. And I've always just had an obsession over it. And there reached a point where I was like, it's time to go on my first safari to Africa. How am I going to do this? And it all started because when I was in high school, I applied to study abroad, do a summer exchange program in Kenya. I chose Kenya because I knew it would have access to wildlife destinations. So in high school, that's where I really immersed myself in a true wild setting. And then from there, it just kind of prompted more visits, and my knowledge of these places expanded, and I wanted to explore more and more.
My goodness. So how did it get to a point where you wanted it to carve it out into like a business for yourself?
Yeah, well, so at its core, I was the client first,
Right.
and then there reached a point where it's like, okay, a lot of people are coming to me with questions about how I pulled off these trips or what I did, where I went, and how I did it. And I found that there was value there. And when that started to increase, I was like, I could create a business around this and really help advise people and match them with the best experience for them in this niche. So that's why I decided to specialize in travel advisory. Um, and I didn't just jump into it independently. I worked under an international travel advisor for the better part of a year to learn the ropes. And this individual provided the whole globe. I mean, the majority of the trips were in Italy. It was an Italian based group,
Mm.
but there were still inquiries for destinations all across the globe. So that experience really helped me understand what it would take and entail if I wanted to branch off and specialize in my niche.
Right. So how long ago was this? You did the apprenticeship and then like when did you get the business running?
I started independently about 2 years ago. Um, I kind of eased into it. It wasn't just a day where I was like, "Oh, I'm going to put all my chips into this."
Right.
Um, but I'd say last year there was a moment, an epiphany where I was like, "Okay, this is what I do full time," and I haven't looked back since. So in retrospect, like it was a gradual
Right.
approach into it, and a lot of it was just all these different experiences I mentioned, kind of forming this opportunity.
Got it. So what do family and friends feel about this path you've taken?
They're always like, "What do you do?" What? And they're always joking, like, "Where are you going next?"
But it's cool, man. If you're like at a party, that's a really interesting conversation to have, no?
It is fun. I mean, a lot of people don't see it coming when I'm like, "Yeah, I plan safaris," and they're just seeing me out in public doing whatever. And they're
Right.
like, "What?" Like here in Montana, especially, and for my age, there's not a lot of people my age doing this.
Right.
Um, so it is a fun reveal, and I love what I do.
Oh, that's amazing, man. Like, hold our hands here, okay? Say I'm going for a safari. What kind of things are we planning for, Jeff? What are you looking out for? What's the structure like for an
Yeah.
itinerary?
So in essence, like if you want to go on safari, I'll make it happen for you. I am very heavy in East Africa trips or Southern Africa trips. But as I mentioned before, I'm not exclusive to those places.
Mhm.
So let's say you're a group of four, you share with me your travel preferences, your needs, you're a family. So and so prefers traveling in this style. We like high end trips. We want to see this specific wildlife
Mhm.
species, whatever it is you want to do. That's when I kind of put my knowledge to test and match you with the best trip I believe will be able to deliver what you're looking for. So I've been called a safari broker. I've been called a safari referrer, a safari influencer.
Right.
But whatever you want to call me, I think the overall term is safari advisor. So people come to me with their what they're looking for, and then I share my knowledge and expertise to design them a custom tailored trip for a destination that I think is going to be best fit for them.
Got it. And you have relationships with vendors, with other travel companies to like make this kind of thing happen?
Exactly. So that was one of those things that I didn't realize I was forming in the background all this time. That took
Right.
years to kind of curate because it all started because I was the client. I wanted to go on safari.
Right.
And I've traveled with many, many groups, but there were certain ones that we just had a really strong connection. And I knew like if I was going to refer someone to this group, I'd be able to make that referral on a full confidence basis that they would be able to deliver an exceptional trip. And they're groups I work well with. And as an independent travel advisor, I set up those relationships directly.
Got it.
So yeah, I feel so lucky now to with time form really strong partnership with my preferred groups across Africa and beyond.
So from what I'm hearing is like to be successful at what you're doing, a safari travel advisor, obviously you have to be a good communicator, develop relationships, be very knowledgeable about different safaris around the globe. And what else? What other kind of skills and talents do you need to really excel at what you do?
Well, you have to be able to find clients. So you can be amazing at what you do, but if no one knows that you do it, then
Mm.
you're going to be on your own. So, I mean, a huge part of what I do is digital marketing. And that's actually, I'd say, majority, if 50%, if not more, of what my job actually is. So, one half is helping clients and working with them to design their trips. The other half of it is this media presence I have. And I've always had a knack for video and editing. And my first dream was to create a nature show.
Mm.
So I feel lucky that I get to kind of lean into that side of me to do what I do now.
Mhm.
It's not exactly how I pictured the nature show going, but this is the next best thing. So I create a lot of content on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the platforms,
Mhm.
showcasing these experiences, sharing insights, and that's how a lot of people discover me is because I'm answering commonly searched questions about safari trips. And then they
Got it.
find me and they're like, okay, well, he's been on it before. He would know. And then that compels them to reach out. So
Saw a
yeah, the digital
strategy there.
marketing is huge.
So
And yeah,
okay, hold our hands here. Well, let's get into the digital marketing. Are we talking like so just like content creation? Are we talking about Facebook ads, YouTube ads? What are we talking about?
a little bit of it all. I mean, I think about like how are consumers looking for a trip? You know, most often they're on YouTube or Google searching these specific questions. And sometimes they're just, where's the best place to go on Safari? Or it's something like, are safaris safe, like a concern.
Mm.
And that's where there's a lot of search traffic. And I'm thinking, okay, they this is a valid concern. I should address this. They might find a video of mine answering that question.
Mm.
And with some reassurance and sharing my background and knowledge, they'd be like, okay, maybe I should now reach out to him to take this a step further. So that's kind of my strategy there. And that's how a lot of people discover me. Um, it's not so much just follow me for the adventures, you know? It's more like I want to help provide value and insights for you. And, you know, that's kind of the hook, essentially.
I love it. See, listeners, viewers, you got to hustle. This is what Jeff is saying, man. Like, you can't just say, "Yeah, I do safaris, guys." You could trust me. Like, he's got to build that credibility and trust. He's got to find the people that need his services. So, this is great, and you're providing value. That's awesome. That's the way it should be done, in my opinion, so that people
I mean,
can,
there's a lot of different ways travel advisors find clients. That's just
mm,
one example. Sometimes people are better with the face and to face, you know, connection, word of mouth, and they're more plugged into certain social circles, what have you.
Right.
It was just in my case that I love producing content for YouTube as a platform and Instagram. So that's where the majority of people find me.
Mhm.
That's just one way to do it. And then there's a fair share of people that find me from word of mouth, like I said, or just my sister's cousin's friend, whatever. Well, my sister's cousin would be my cousin too. That was a bad example, but you know
Right.
what I mean.
Got it. Okay, yeah. So I guess in terms of like in-person stuff, people could go like what, travel groups, associations, like networking groups, I guess.
Hmm.
To,
There's lots of conferences and
okay.
groups that meet together, and however you want to do it. I mean, these businesses, they need help finding clients too. So if they need someone like me to bring them in, that's extremely valuable to them. And like I'm based in Montana, there's not a lot of people representing the safari world here. So just by tapping into my local audience, you'd be surprised. Like a lot of people dream about going on safari here. So I'm helpful to them because I can bring them some Montanans. I mean, just your localized community is something you can tap into.
What local wildlife is in Montana?
Well, I live on the rim of Glacier National Park. Are you familiar with it?
No.
So it's a gorgeous place to live. It's one of the last remaining strongholds for grizzly bear populations. We have elk, we have moose, we have occasionally gray wolves. You really have to go find those though. And if you're super lucky, things like wolverines. We have a lot of wildlife here. It's just a little bit harder to find.
Got it. All
Yeah.
right, so Jeff, let's get right down to it, man. You're talking about safety before, okay? You're talking wild animals, Jeff. When you're out in Africa and there's cheetahs chasing after the truck that you're in, sitting in the back, you're not scared?
Never, no.
Really?
As soon, I mean, it's a valid concern because people see these male lions roaming on past. But you'd be surprised. A lot of the animals, if you approach them the right way, they will be unfazed. They won't be bothered.
Mhm.
Sometimes they'll actually be more scared of you than you are of them. Things like elusive leopards will run off. So the things you want to be scared of are a bit more unassuming.
Mm.
Um, things like Cape buffalo are actually one of the more dangerous animals. Hippopotamus, they're notorious for actually taking more lives in Africa than any other species.
Wow.
And that's because they charge, they don't really think twice. So that's when your heart gets racing, is if you have a unexpected encounter with one of those larger herbivores. It's
Oh
not
my.
so much like the carnivores with really scary teeth. Um, and yeah, it's all about just kind of following the guidance of these professionals out there who are familiar with wildlife behavior and making sure that you don't cross a boundary because that's when things get hairy.
Have you had any close encounters?
Oh man, yes. I mean, a few weeks ago, I went on a walking safari in the Okavango Delta. Walking safari is not for everyone, right? You got to really know what you're signing up for. And you're vulnerable in those settings, right? You have no protection of the vehicle, and you're just trusting your guide to take you on to these immersive places, totally untamed environments. So that was tingly a few times for sure. We saw lions on foot.
Oh my
We
gosh.
saw, I mean, hyenas. We did track a leopard. This was a multi-day affair, so going out to find these animals. But like I said, nothing scared me most than seeing a hippo on the riverbanks in this, on foot setting.
Oh my gosh, man. I'd be freaking out, man.
I don't want to scare everyone from going on safari. That's
Yeah,
like for a certain type of traveler.
for sure. What have been
Yeah.
some of the fun moments, like interactions with animals like that were positive?
Positive. Oh, I mean, when you get to witness really intimate encounters between wildlife species, babies, mothers, tenderness, or just like unique behavior that you read about or hear about, but then it's happening in front of you, like males competing for dominance or territory and interspecies interaction. You never guess like what happens if you have an elephant and a male lion, like what happens when they interact. It's
Dang.
fascinating to witness.
Oh my
Or
goodness.
you might have be in the right place at the right time to witness that.
Wow, that's wild. I remember seeing a video once of a puma versus a sloth. Did not end well.
Oh gosh. Well, I hope the sloth won that one.
Yeah, I don't
Money's on the
know.
sloth.
Unfortunately, he was crawling up a tree. The puma was chasing after him up the tree. The poor guy, you saw the sloth's face. He knew that puma was closing in. And
Oh no. Well, unfortunately, sloths don't have many evolutionary traits of defense.
how have they survived? Like, I don't get it.
I actually have the answer to this.
Okay.
Okay, well, what part of the sloth do you want to know about? Like, how are they so vulnerable and have
Or
withstood the test
how
of
are they
time?
still in existence? Because they're so freaking slow.
Camouflage is one of their traits
Really?
for survival. They conserve a lot of energy by not moving, so you never even guess they're there. Um, they don't need to move a lot because they conserve so much energy, so they only need one small meal, and then they don't have to keep foraging for more. Animal
Interesting.
adaptations are interesting, especially in the sloth's case.
Right. You must know so much about animals. Like any like okay, aside from sloths, like any other interesting tidbits of like, I don't know, like trivia that you know about wildlife, wild animals.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love rhinos. It's one of my favorite animals, and it's largely in part because I was involved with some conservation projects at one point in time. Um, Very fascinated with what's happening with the northern white rhinos. I don't know if you're familiar with this story at all. It is pretty internationally known in the conservation world just because there's two of them left. There's two northern white rhinos, which is a subspecies of white rhino. They're both females, and like the world's kind of watching them because their scientists are working to potentially bring back more using IVF.
Oh.
So it's very Jurassic Park like. And this is their only chance of survival, right? Because they're both females.
Oh,
The females that live today can't carry a pregnancy on their own, so they'll have to use a different species of rhino to carry those. But there's a lot of fascinating science involved with um, potentially bringing those back. It's a very ambitious idea, but I love following and covering that story.
interesting.
Mhm.
Man, like how okay. It's interesting. Whenever I think of like extinct animals or on the verge, I remember back like in the 80s, like Diane Fossey, gorillas,
Mhm.
and that sort of thing. Yeah, like how are the gorillas doing? I think they're doing all right.
They're doing better than they were. They still have a long way to go. I did try to hike to Diane Fossey's tomb when I was in
Um,
Rwanda. Usually I can persevere, but that was a humbling moment, was that hike. It was the muddiest, rainiest day. Whew, did not make it to the tomb, unfortunately.
oh
So I
no.
did get to retrace some of her steps, but not all the way to the end. Did learn a lot about Diane Fossey while I was there, and that
Right.
does draw a lot of people in
Sure.
because she was kind of a household name in the 80s. And of course, the Gorillas in the Mist, based on her, brought a lot of attention to gorillas.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, she was a controversial figure in a big way.
Yeah.
But no matter what your opinion is on her, she did generate a lot of attention to this important species. And a lot of tourism has been brought to Rwanda, which is a very integral part in saving them because it brings in a lot of financial support for their conservation efforts.
Interesting.
Hmm.
You talked about Rwanda. Like, are you concerned? Okay, we talked about safety around the animals, but what about like these different, African countries that do, some of them do have a reputation for crime and stuff like that. Like,
Hmm.
like how do you
It's totally valid.
safeguard?
I mean, safety is the number one question I get asked.
Sure.
So I totally understand where people are coming from.
Yeah.
Rwanda is one of the safest countries in Africa.
Yeah.
And it's not contrary to what you might think because it's bordering a few countries with civil unrest at the moment.
Mm,
But the big thing that I tell people is that countries like Rwanda really want tourists to come in.
yeah.
They depend on it. So safety really is paramount. Security is taken very seriously. And they want to preserve things like the natural spaces and their gorillas because that's what Rwanda is known for globally in many ways. So they don't want to lose that huge part of their identity. The tourism industry is a multi in Africa billion-dollar industry. It brings a lot of money to these local economies and these groups. So none of this is successful unless it is safe for people to come travel.
Got it. Now,
Mhm.
when you, okay, say someone, is getting ready to go on a safari in Africa, Costa Rica, what have you, how should they pack? Like, what things should they have in their suitcase? Anything in particular besides clothes and
Sleeves.
sleeves? Okay, yes.
Sleeves. Oh yeah. You don't want to have like bare arm out or anything like that because bugs, wherever there's a lot of wildlife, there's lots of bugs, and mosquitoes are a serious concern in many places. So sleeves, layers. A lot of people think Africa is just hot all the time. It can also be frigid and cold, so people underpack in many ways. And yeah, I mean, it's all regional. It depends on where you're going and the time of year. But those are the kind of things I can help people with because I know how to curate their packing based on when they're going.
Got it. All right, Jeff. So say there's a listener or viewer checking out this conversation. They're getting the bug. They're like, you know what? I like what Jeff's doing. I'm starting from ground zero. How can I do my travel advisor business? What do I need off the top to get this thing going?
Well, you need some knowledge and expertise about something specific. It's be hard to just sign up one day to be a travel advisor if you haven't traveled yourself. So think about what kind of travel style works best for you, and then attract us like-minded individuals who are interested in that same style. I speak to the wildlife travelers, the people who want to immerse in natural settings, and that's the demographic I focused on. And that's been way more successful than broad reaching to the masses and just being like, I can help you plan trips because that's very ambiguous.
Sure.
So I think like thinking about what areas of interest you have and then just starting there, exploring more, connecting with individuals that could provide access for you. And then from there, you just keep on going. It takes a lot of time. And then you'll find yourself in a position where, okay, I have a lot of access now and it's scalable.
Got it. I like it. Just it takes patience. You got to work at it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jeff, like I see you're crafting your empire. Okay. I'm seeing the content online. You got the biz happening. So is there someone you're looking up to? Do you want to be like Steve Irwin back in the day? Obviously, RIP, but do you want to mold yourself after somebody else in a similar kind of avenue?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because Jeff 5 years ago would have been like, yes, I want to be that nature show host. But then I kind of realized like that's actually not me. I am not Steve Irwin. I'm not that person who's going to go wrangle crocodiles and be kind of like this high energy person. I'm kind of more of a cool five
Right. Yeah.
and more interested in like different topics and kind of more, stuff like that. So that's when I was like, okay, I'm not going to try and emulate someone else. I'm just going to create my own.
Hmm.
And ever since I did that, everything's been 10 times easier. So yeah, I think a huge part of what I do is I don't just create insight videos, but I love creating just lighthearted, fun vlogs for my own enjoyment.
Okay.
And although they don't reach as many people, some do enjoy following along, but that's where I get to be my most authentic self.
Sure.
And that's really where I am today all started, right? I don't want to lose touch or lose sight of that. So I know I deviated from the original question a little bit, but
It's okay.
yeah, that's kind of, I just kind of, I didn't want to create a different version of myself or anything like that. I just wanted to be the most genuine, authentic self. And that's how a lot of people, they see that, you know?
I
And I
did.
think
Like
that resonates.
when I was recruiting you for this show, I was checking out your videos. You seemed like a very chill, knowledgeable, likable person. I'm like, I like that guy. I want him on my program.
Oh,
So
thank you. Well, that means I'm happy to hear that because that means, you didn't hear like, oh, this guy seems sketchy or.
exactly. So I thought you'd be a great fit. So thank you for creating that content. Thank you for being authentic. Thank you for being on the show. So where can people find you? You mentioned your TikTok, YouTube. Can you email address? Can you just say it all right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go on Safari, find my website, jeffhyer.com. You'll find my Safari inquiry form right there. You fill it out. It takes like 5 minutes to fill out, share your preferences, and then I'll get that in my inbox and we'll kickstart the plan making process from there. If you just want to follow along for what I'm up to virtually, you can find me on YouTube. That's my primary channel. Instagram's more for the updates. But yeah, Jeff_Hyer, Hyer, is the fastest way to find me.
Awesome, Jeff. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, that was a pretty cool chat with Jeff. I have to admit, before this conversation, I never thought I would interview a safari expert. I had no idea, no inkling until I came across Jeff's YouTube channel. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was interesting information. And what do you know? The conversation was great. A lot of insight, a lot of behind the scenes about what he does. Jeff, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. All right, that's it for this interview. Please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel and podcast. Until next time, take care and have a great one.